Hey everyone, and welcome to the catchmanager.com. I'm Hassan Osman, and I have the pleasure of having Elizabeth Saunders today with me here to talk about her latest book, The 3 Secrets to Effective Time Investment: How to Achieve More Success with Less Stress. Elizabeth is a successful time coach who has been featured in magazines such as Time, Forbes, and Harvard Business Review, as well as media outlets such as NBC. And I was really lucky to get my hands on an advanced copy of her book. I'm a big fan of productivity. That's what the Catch Manager is all about. And I always look for ways for getting the most return on my time. So I really enjoyed reading the book, and I learned a lot from it. So Elizabeth, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Why, thank you. It is my pleasure to be here.
The pleasure is mine. So let's start by talking a little bit about what the book is about and who is it really for.
Exactly. So the book, as you so eloquently read, is about how to achieve more success with less stress. So this is for people who not only want to be productive, but also want to really feel good about what they're doing and not doing. And then getting even more specific, in general, this tends to apply to people that are knowledge workers with some autonomy in how they spend your time. So if you're someone that works in an extremely rigid environment where you're told what to do every minute, this book may or may not be of the most benefit for you. But if you're someone who maybe has a lot of people you work for, or, as Hassan's so good at talking about, a remote worker with maybe a lot of choice about when and how you work, this book can help you get more done and also feel more peaceful.
Great, great. So tell me a little bit about what's the reason behind writing the book. I mean, what drove you to actually write it? I know you're a very successful time coach, so what was the reasoning behind that?
Well, I love what I do. I really, really love what I do. It makes me so happy when I talk to a client like I did this morning, and he started out thinking that there was no hope and he could never really change and was super skeptical. And now, a few months later, he's like, I'm really surprised I did that. I love a routine. And so I take great, great joy in coaching, and I also enjoy training, but there's only one of me and there's only so much of me to go around. And so why I wrote this book is I'm so excited about making a bigger positive impact and of being able to share these concepts with people that may never meet me or may never have the opportunity to coach with me.
That's fantastic. The passion definitely shows. So let's go into the actual secrets. I thought, sharing with viewers what those secrets are might be very helpful. So secret number 1, you say, is clarify action-based priorities. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely, I'd be delighted to. So what my book is about is the 3 secrets to effective time investment. So as I said at the beginning, this isn't just about getting more done, but it's about getting the right things done and in the proper allocation. So when we're looking at time investment, we want to make sure that our allocation, so let's say we were using the analogy of finances. If we have a mutual fund, our allocation would be maybe, 30% to S&P 500, 20% to mid cap, 20% to small cap, and then another 30% international. Well, when we're looking at our time, we want to say, okay, this percentage to work, this percentage to family, this percentage to sleep, this percentage to friends.
Right.
So by clarifying action-based priorities, what we're doing is, first of all, saying, okay, what are my priorities? What are those percentages in terms of importance? And then secondly, by making them action-based, we are giving our brains sufficient information to know how to make our priorities a priority.
Right.
If we say exercise, what does that mean? If we say I will walk 30 minutes 3 times a week, our brain can actually do something.
Absolutely. And on that point, I actually like the fact that you focus on the phrase action-based, because to me it always wasn't. For example, you gave an excellent anecdote about family being a priority, and that to me is extremely important. But what I like about the fact that it's action-based is that it really has to be more concrete than that. So saying that you have to spend 1 quality night per week with your spouse, or having dinners, family dinners 4 times a week, really puts that into concrete actions, as opposed to just saying, oh, well, family is a priority for me. So I actually love that.
Exactly. Right on.
Right. All right. So let's move on to secret number 2, set realistic expectations. I know we heard that a lot. So can you elaborate a little bit about that, what that means?
Absolutely. So, realistic expectations are the biggest factor in how you feel about your productivity. Not in terms of your actual productivity, but how you feel about it. So, for instance, let's say that we have a project that takes 8 hours to complete. And we're going to look at this in three different scenarios, and I'm going to have you respond to me.
Okay.
So, in the first scenario, this project takes 8 hours, and I thought that it would take 6 hours. So I thought that I would be done by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, have 2 more hours to work on something else, and then leave by 5. How would I feel when it actually took 8 hours?
Ecstatic. I'd be super happy.
You'd be super happy that it took 2 hours longer than you thought?
Oh, I thought you said it took 8 hours. All right, let's repeat that. All right, I thought you said 6 hours and then 8 hours are the other way around. All right.
Okay, it
So,
took 8 hours, but you thought that it would take 6 hours. How would you feel?
oh, I thought it would take 6 hours, but it took 8 hours. I'd be very disappointed.
Very
Extremely.
disappointed.
Yeah.
That oh my goodness, I thought I would finish this project by 3 and I'd have 2 more hours to work on something else, get out by 5, but instead it took 8 hours to finish this project and now I'm completely behind. So now in the second scenario, the project took 8 hours and we thought it would take 8 hours. So our estimates were accurate. How would we feel?
Average, probably neutral about the expectations.
Okay, now it's time to get excited. We thought that the project would take 10 hours. We thought that we would need to stay at work till 7, that we would be late for dinner, that would be so horrible, and then we finish at 5 o'clock because it took 2 hours less than we expected. How would we feel?
Now I'd feel ecstatic. Super
That,
happy with the extra time.
what's funny though is in all three of those situations, it was the same project,
Mhm.
it took the same amount of time. But the only thing that changed was our expectations. So having proper expectations of ourselves, realistic expectations of others, and also encouraging others to have realistic expectations of us is what is going to allow us to not be stressed out.
Right, absolutely. No, I totally agree with that. So, so quick question on that point, because I know in the book you actually also use the analogy of a marathon with the analogy of how fast you think you're going to finish. So, do you suggest that it would be best to always sort of under promise and over deliver with yourself whenever you're setting expectations?
I think that's a very, very interesting question. And there's kind of two elements to it. One element is if you are in the situation, like some of my clients are, where you have a very hard time trusting yourself and you also struggle with perfectionism and self-criticism, I would say yes, set the expectations really low.
Right.
Like, I'm going to be so proud of myself if I spend 5 minutes meditating, or I'm going to be so proud of myself if I finish this one thing this day, and give yourself success to build on, because when you're in that situation, pushing yourself harder, telling yourself to go faster just makes you feel more afraid, more self-critical,
Right.
and to a very vicious downward cycle. On
Fine.
the other, yeah, on the other hand, if you're someone that's started to strengthen your routines, it can get boring if you set the expectations too low and you're like, why should I even try any harder to be more productive if there's no like next level to go
Right.
to?
Right.
And if you're in that situation, then I do want you to push yourself a little bit. Maybe not tell other people. Like maybe your client, you say, oh yeah, I'll get that to you on Friday. But yourself, you say, I'm going to get that done by Thursday morning.
Right.
And then you do it.
Right, absolutely. Which is a great segue, by the way, to secret number 3, which is about strengthening simple routines. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So just as the first one was about action-based priorities, so clarifying what we wanted, the second secret is about setting realistic expectations. So making sure that whatever we say is our priority is also sustainable.
Right.
The third secret, which is strengthening simple routines, is really what puts this all together. Because on a daily basis, we are not at our best. We're tired, we're stressed out, we like can't remember our priorities. We can barely remember where we put our keys, let alone our priorities. We're not like,
Right.
my action-based priority at the time, do I have realistic expectations? So what we want to do is we want to create the path of least resistance in our life towards our action-based priorities and towards realistic expectations. So, for instance, the simple routine of daily planning. If we have a ritual in place where every day, whether it's in the morning or at night, whatever works for you, we go through our schedule, we see what meetings we have, we see what's most important, and we see if it will fit. That is a very simple routine that on a daily basis can remind us of our priorities and help us to have realistic expectations. Or another example, like you were giving the example of family. We could say our family is a priority, but if we have no routine in place, it can be extremely difficult to do that. Whereas if you have a ritual where you say, okay, every day I leave work at 5:30 so I can be home by 6 and have dinner with my family, then without you thinking about it, just automatically your time is invested in your priority of family.
Right, right. No, absolutely. I can definitely connect with that, but I know quite a lot of people who thrive on being very spontaneous, that forcing themselves to follow a routine could be quite painful for them. So what advice would you have for those folks?
Absolutely. Well, I have a whole section on overcoming your inner routine rebel. Definitely check out my book if you're one of those people because you're not an easy task. Um, but that being said, I can give you a couple of pieces of advice. One is I found that some people, even if they don't really like planning, actually can be okay with ritual. So that they may be the kind of people, if and maybe you're one of them who's listening, who really hates daily planning, but you don't mind saying like every Thursday night I go and hang out with my friends, or you know, every Friday morning I process all my invoices for the week. So if you're one of those people then who doesn't really like routine in terms of like planning but is okay with ritual, that's one way for you to get around this. A second way for you to kind of overcome your emotional resistance to routine is to give yourself some flexibility within it. So, for instance, maybe you get to decide where you work. Like, you need to work during these hours, like, you get to decide if you go to a coffee shop or you go to a museum or you go sit in your living room or your bedroom, or you get variety there. Or maybe you're someone where, you need to decide on your priorities for the day, but then as you go through the day, you get to choose what order you do them in. So it's like a little multiple choice grab bag
Right.
day. And by doing that, you can a lot of times still be accomplishing more, but not feel so constrained.
Right, right. And I also like, on that note, that at the end of the book, you actually have some done for you routines, which I thought were phenomenal. Because, again, like you mentioned at the beginning of the book, that for some people they might not want to read the book end to end, even though I highly recommend it. But if they'd like to just skip and directly go for the done for you routines, that can help them a lot. And I assume to a lot of people, you think that would be very helpful as well, that even if they are not usually in some sort of habit or usually into routines, that could at least guide them through that.
Exactly. And I'm a time coach, so I have realistic expectations. I know how busy everyone is, and my goal is to give you as much value as possible as quickly as possible. So that's why I spent a lot of time on including over 40 done for you routines on everything from making sure you have time to exercise, to sleep rituals, to children's school schedules, to running an efficient meeting, to daily planning. All of those routines are in this book. And what I intended that for is if you're one of those people that's like, I really want to make some quick changes, but I don't have time to read the entire book now, you can flip right to that section, which is in chapter 7 of my book, and pick out some of those routines that you want to start working on. They're very simple. Some are just a few bullet points, some are more complex, and you can use those as a starting point for then you to adapt and adjust. And that's kind of your cheat sheet to get a quick start if you can't read the entire section.
Fantastic. Well, like I said, I really enjoyed the book and thought it was very helpful in reducing stress and maximizing productivity. Again, the title of the book is The Three Secrets to Effective Time Investment: How to Achieve More Success with Less Stress. And the book definitely delivers on that title. You can pick up a copy in your local bookstore or online, and I'll definitely include the link at the bottom of this video as well to go and check the book out. Elizabeth, thanks once again, and all the best of luck with your new book.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, and all the best to both you and everyone who's watching on having a stress-free 2013. This is about having more success and more fun.
Fantastic, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Take care.